We all hold certain things to be true. You could call these beliefs. And in case you didn't notice, all of us don't agree on what's correct or true. Nonetheless, as individuals, we organize our lives around what we believe. Something important to know, though, is that some of these beliefs we hold without even being consciously aware of it. You could say they're deeply embedded in our subconscious. So we're living according to them with no conscious awareness that we're doing so. Things happen in each one of our lives, and we encounter information that totally challenges our beliefs. That's an inevitable aspect of life. For example, life may throw us a curveball that proves one of our beliefs wrong, or we may read something that presents a totally alternative perspective, or we may become interested in self-development and take a more proactive approach to questioning and changing our own beliefs. And no matter whether this happens in an intentional, conscious way, or whether it simply is an experience that happens to us, it tends to be really, really hard. Many of our beliefs are not benefiting us. They're not adding to our life experience. In fact, they're acting as a detriment to our life experience, which is why when we commit to this path of awareness, so often that entails changing our beliefs. Now, doing so would make our lives better. So why then is it that we resist changing our beliefs so much? At face value, us resisting changing a belief that doesn't really serve us doesn't make much sense. However, it does make sense when you look deep into why changing a belief is so incredibly hard. And that's what we're going to do today. Ready? 1, the most important thing to understand about changing a belief is that it is quite literally life-threatening. Why do I say this? Because our entire life, all the different sections of our life, are organized and arranged and chosen based off of what we believe. Therefore, if we change what we believe, it is not possible for our life, i.e. the different sectors of our life, to stay the same. They will change, inevitably. And as you know, part of the process of that change is often a complete collapse of the life you know, right? Because our life is built in accordance with our beliefs, what we do with our health, what our personal relationships look like, and who we have relationships with, what we do for work, where we live, the choices we make in our life, what we do with our money, all of it, we choose according to our beliefs. If we change a belief, it isn't just the belief we will be changing, it is any aspect of our life that was in alignment with that belief. For many people, a drastic overhaul of what they believe implies a drastic overhaul of their life. Let's just be honest, it's not exactly a comfortable process. So that you can understand this, I'm going to give you an example. Seth grew up Jehovah's Witness. Some of the beliefs that came along this was he believed it was wrong to get blood transfusions because it put him at risk for not being able to achieve eternal salvation. He believed it was wrong to have sex before marriage, and that as such it was important to have a chaperone or to go on group dates if he ever met a girl he thought might be right for him as a wife. He believed it was wrong to celebrate his birthday or anyone else's. He believed that any personal ambitions regarding career must be abandoned for the sake of service to family and especially the service to God. Because of all of these beliefs, Seth chose to stay in Georgia so he could be close to his congregation rather than move to Massachusetts and attend a school that had an incredible mathematics program. He avoided doctors his entire life, preferring to align with the idea that God is the one that will heal you if anything bad happens. He married the very first girl he ever had feelings for when he was 19 years old. When they had their first child, Seth would take him out of school anytime they were celebrating a holiday, and they did not celebrate that child's birthdays at all. Also, Seth devoted himself to missionary work rather than getting prestigious degrees and rather than pursuing his dream jobs. But here's the thing. When Seth was still young, the universe delivered him a 1-2 punch. On top of his family and religious service duties, he decided to take an anthropology class at a local college. When he took that course, the foundations of everything he was led to believe began to crumble. On top of that, as fate would have it, at the very same time, his cousin, who he was very close to, suffered a miscarriage. And during that miscarriage, all the members of her family and her husband talked her into not getting a blood transfusion. She went into hypovolemic shock, and as a result suffered both brain damage and gangrene, which led to multiple amputations and also a change in personality. Now she's much less cohesive, she has seizures, memory problems, and sometimes becomes dazed, disoriented, and confused. As a result of this, Seth's beliefs changed. Problem was, his entire life was organized around his beliefs, so what happens? His entire life changes. His shift in beliefs caused a divorce between he and his wife, something that brought intense shame on him. He was only able to see his son on weekends. His family stopped talking to him completely as he was shunned. He lost all but one friend in his congregation. He had to make all new friends, which was a rich experience, but also a very alienating one because no one could relate to him. He made the decision to move to the closest major city, and he decided to focus all of his time and energy and resources on becoming a holistic doctor. He let his new friends throw him the first birthday party of his life, and he started going on dates alone with women. Now, what's important about this whole thing is not whether you think that what happened with Seth is right or wrong or good or bad. What's important to see is that because his beliefs changed, his entire life changed. So the shift in beliefs was quite literally life-threatening. Now, this is just life-threatening in the sense that the entire life you've created is going to have to change and potentially collapse so you can build a new one. There are definitely places in this world where changing your beliefs are more life-threatening than that in terms of it actually is a risk to your survival. Okay, so point 1, changing a belief changes your life, which is a scary proposition. If you want to learn more about this, you can watch my video titled The Real Reason Why People Don't Change. 2, another reason why changing a belief is so hard is because when we change a belief or think about having to change a belief, we add meaning to it that is painful. So it puts us in a situation where we either accept that meaning we're adding to it, that painful meaning, and then we're in pain, or we refuse to accept that meaning that would be added to that change in belief, potentially slipping into denial. By the way, when we do this, we simply keep the old belief. I'll give you an example here. Jen is a big-time animal lover. Now, when she was younger, she heard that when you find little baby birds outside of their nest, if you go and you try to handle them, then they will be rejected by their mother. So they're either going to be picked off by a predator or they're going to be starving to death because mom won't touch them. So when she found little baby birds on the ground, she decided that she was going to end their misery in a quicker way. She put them in the freezer so they would freeze to death. What happens though? Years later, she's sitting down, she's watching a TV show, and on that TV show, an expert says, actually, it's a myth that the mother bird will not accept baby birds. In fact, if you find a nest on the ground, you should just lift it up and put it on the tree. If you find baby birds on the floor, you should try to put them back in their nest or just leave them on the ground because mom will come back to them and start feeding them on the floor. So Jen obviously has a complete crisis over this. The painful meaning that Jen adds to this new belief is, I'm a killer. I completely unnecessarily killed innocent baby birds. Jen couldn't live with this. It kept her up at night in torment. The pain of the meaning we add to the changing of a belief is sometimes so painful that we choose to go into complete denial. To learn more about this, you can watch my video titled, How to Call Bullshit on Denial. 3. When we change a belief, we're often thrust into a space of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a very, very uncomfortable state for a human being. You find yourself suddenly in a situation where things don't line up. You're faced with conflicting experiences, conflicting information, conflicting beliefs, conflicting values, conflicting perspectives, conflicting behaviors, etc. Cognitive dissonance is destabilizing. It causes a lot of stress for people. And it's incredibly confusing. So naturally, we would want to avoid it or get out of cognitive dissonance as fast as we can. Even if that means sticking by our old belief no matter what. 4. Changing a belief causes our sense of self to change. Why? Because so much of our sense of self, or our ego, is totally based on what we believe. So when we change what we believe, what does that mean about our identity? Quite quickly, changing our belief can throw us into a total identity crisis. To learn more about this, watch my video titled Self-Concept, the Enemy of Awakening. 5. There's an undeniable social element to changing a belief. Now, we may want to wish that we were in a world here where when we change a belief, it didn't have any effect on our social bonds. Yet that's not the case, is it? The reality is that changing our beliefs definitely impact our social lives. Our social lives being impacted is a very big deal because the human species is an intensely social species and connection is the #1 need. Look, if you don't believe me at face value, just think about what happened in COVID. I have yet to meet one single person who did not lose a friend or a family member or many over the differing opinions and beliefs surrounding vaccines in the COVID crisis. Bottom line, changing beliefs changes relationships, and we don't like that very much. 6. Your brain, your body, and your ego are hardwired to protect you. So when changing a belief threatens to cause us pain in any way, regardless of whether that's imagined or real, we're against it. We're hardwired to be against it. For example, you filter out anything that contradicts your beliefs and pay very close attention to what reinforces it. Many psychologists call this confirmation bias. Your brain is hardwired to want to save energy, maintain homeostasis, and simplify the world. We want to avoid anything that causes stress, and we're prone to do anything to preserve our sense of self, i.e. ego, when it is threatened. Long story short, encountering anything that challenges our beliefs is really difficult and can be extremely painful. Learning to lean into that discomfort or pain is definitely a counterintuitive thing for people to do. Now, I could sit here, and I will, and tell you that it's absolutely worth it. That's the only way to be truly in alignment with expansion, and definitely the only way to achieve genuine well-being. However, all too often those of us who are in the spiritual field or the psychology fields or the self-development field love to tell you only about this side of it. So it would seem kind of confusing why, if it's so wonderful to change a belief, why people are resisting it so hard. Well, the answer is because it's quite literally life-threatening, because it can be very difficult, and it can collapse everything that our safety seems to depend on. Have a good week. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and consider sharing this video with your friends. You can also click on the bell icon to be notified of the next time that I post a video. I want to thank you personally for the bravery that you have to step into awareness. I'll see you in the next video.